In this video, I'm going to show you how you can install Google Analytics cross-domain tracking with the help of Google Tag Manager. All and more coming up. Hey there, Measure Geeks! Julian here, back with another video for you, another tutorial on Google Analytics and Google Tag Manager. If you are new here, we are actually doing a live recording. And if you want to be online next time and ask questions, then definitely subscribe to our channel down below. Today we want to talk about Google Analytics cross-domain tracking. This is a topic that trips a lot of people up because there are a lot of different things that actually go into it, a lot of decision making beforehand. So I want to take it step by step and show you what cross-domain tracking is all about. Let's go into a little demo here. I have my demo shop where I have Google Analytics and Google Tag Manager installed. As you can see, Google Tag Manager is installed and it sends a page view onto our Google Analytics account, which we can then see inside of our real-time reporting. So in our real-time reporting, we should see a new page view in a second once we have reloaded this page and our Google Analytics tag has fired. Here we go. We have a new Google Analytics page view. Now, what I also have installed is a connected website. So this is a website that I want to track into the same Google Analytics account here. And once I go over to this second website, which is our demoblog.com, pay attention to the domain, it actually changes. We also sending with the same Google Tag Manager account, which I have installed there, another page view to Google Analytics into the same Google Analytics account. And we have a second page view. The problem here is that Google Analytics actually counts 2 users that entered this website. The user is just one user because we went from one to the next website, but Google Analytics can't recognize this user again and doesn't know that he actually entered the website from our connected website. Google Analytics hasn't got any reference to this. So we need to install something called cross-domain tracking in order to connect this and make this one user and one session. Otherwise, the user would be attributed differently to a different source because you actually have 2 users. It would count 2 users in that session. So you would also have inflated metrics as well. So cross-domain tracking is something you would need to install in this case. But there are other cases where you don't have to install cross-domain tracking. So I have made up a little graphic here, which we're gonna go from the start. Do you actually need to have cross-domain tracking installed? And the first question you need to ask yourself is, do you have multiple domains that you have set up? Not multiple subdomains, because subdomain tracking doesn't actually need cross-domain tracking, but different domains. So does the part in front of the .com or the .de or the .co.uk actually change? And if that's the case, you might need to have cross-domain tracking. But if you don't have that part changed, then you don't need it. As well as subdomain tracking. If there's a subdomain like blog.demoshop.com, you don't necessarily need cross-domain tracking. So no, you don't need cross-domain tracking if the domain doesn't change. But if it changes, you will need to check the second question. Do I want to send this data to the same Google Analytics account? Do you have on these 2 pages, for example, Google Tag Manager or the G-Tag or the Analytics.js tracking code installed, and they both have the same UAID, so they are sending the same data or the data to the same account in Google Analytics. If this is not the case and you are sending data to 2 separate Google Analytics accounts, so you have 2 separate domains and you have 2 separate Google Analytics installations, then no, you don't need cross-domain tracking because you are not connecting these accounts to one user in the same Google Analytics account. But if you're sending this and you want to send this to one account and one account only, then yes, you might need to install cross-domain tracking. There's some more qualifying questions. Are users going from one to the other side and then going back between them? So is there back and forth between the 2 sites? The other question you might want to ask yourself is, well, I have a third-party checkout on my page. So the user starts on my page, but then goes to my third-party checkout and he converts there. Is that maybe a cross-domain tracking that you want to install? Because you have two Google Analytics for the same property installed on these two domains, and you want to send this over. Then you would need to have the cross-domain tracking installed and continue the session. Very important, because you want to attribute the sales later to the right source where the user originally came from. So ask yourself these two questions. If you have subdomains, then you don't need cross-domain tracking. If you have not two domains, then you don't have to have cross-domain tracking. And if you are sending data to completely separate Google Analytics properties, then you also don't need cross-domain tracking. But if this is all true for you, then you might want to install cross-domain tracking, and I'm going to show you how to set this up right now. So how can we connect our two domains, the demoshop.com and the demoblog.com, to each other? How can we connect them and do cross-domain tracking? Well, on these two pages, we actually have Google Tag Manager installed. So on this page, we have the same Tag Manager account as on our demoblog.com, which is quite convenient because we can control both tracking codes here from one Google Tag Manager account. But you could even do this if you have two Google Tag Manager accounts. You just have to repeat those steps in those two Google Tag Manager accounts. Right now, we have just one Google Tag Manager account, which is quite convenient. And as you can see, we have our Google Analytics page view tag that sends the data over. Now in this tag, we need to install something to enable cross-domain tracking. These are two settings. How can you install these settings? You would first of all need to click on Enable Override Settings in this tag, then click on More Settings, and under More Settings, we have, first of all, our cross-domain tracking, and this is the linker functionality. This linker functionality will enable something to attach something to your links. And what you need to do here is tell Google Tag Manager which domains should be linked. In our case, it would be demoshop.com and demoblog.com. The second setting that we need to take care of is the field to set option. And in the field to set option, we need to enable a field that is in this list down here. It's called Allow Linker. And Allow Linker needs to be set to true. This is the receiving end. Once the Google Analytics code sees the identifier in the URL, it will transfer it and send the right data over to Google Analytics. So these are the two settings that you need to enable. Now, one thing that I need to mention is if you have multiple Google Analytics tags installed on your Google Tag Manager account, you might want to install this directly into your Google Analytics settings variable. So I have a settings variable here, and we could also install this into our settings variable so we don't have to change around all our Google Analytics tags. So for example, if you have an event tag, a transaction tag, or any kind of other tags, you would need to install cross-domain tracking, obviously also in those tags. But if you have a Google Analytics settings variable already enabled, then you can install this only once. So let me repeat this. If you get rid of all of this, or well, you can just click discard, and we want to install this now into our settings variable directly, we can just go over to our settings variable and the variable menu and repeat those steps, because all these settings we have here available as well. So in the cross-domain tracking section, I'm going to go with demoshop.com and the demoblog.com. And then I'm also going to add the field to set option, which is allow linker, and set this to true. So let's save this, and this will now be installed automatically into all our Google Analytics tags, although we just have one tag. We're going to refresh our browser, our preview and debug mode, and our browser. And now we should have this installed. Now, what does this actually do? The cross-domain tracking will look through the page and look at all the links that are on the page. And if one of those links is going over to this connected domain, so our demoblog.com, it will attach the session information to the link itself. If we now click on blog.demoshop.com, we see this little query string attached to the URL. And this query string gives over the right session and user information to this Google Analytics code that will then be able to reconnect you and count you as one user. Now, there are 2 users here right now, as we have entered the website before, and a session only expires after 25 minutes. So we are still here on this 2 user mark, but we can test this by going over. And what I want to do is, first of all, delete my cookies. Not that we have contradicting information here. So I'm going to get rid of my Google Analytics cookie. This is how Google Analytics actually recognizes me and identifies me again. Going to go over to the demo shop. And also here, I'm going to delete my cookies really quickly. Okay, we have a lot of Google Analytics stuff here we're going to get rid of. All right, and now I'm going to enter the website with a query string, which are UTM parameters. I'm going to just go with UTM test here. No, this doesn't work. I'm just going to go with, here we go, UTM test. I'm going to enter the website new again, and Google Analytics should now recognize me and say, okay, there is a new user from the traffic source test, as I have entered this into our, into our UTM source right here. Resources not available. Let's reload this. And it should show me that there's a new user from our test right here. Now I can filter on this user. So one user came from test, and this is me. I can identify myself this way. And I can also now see where this user is actually at. So if I go back to overview here, we have one user from the medium test. And the user goes over to the t-shirt section. We should see a new page view, and our URL should be newly reloaded. Sometimes this takes a second, but we have our Google Analytics tracking code set off. And now we can see this user is now on t-shirt. We're going to go with all sections here. So we are now on the t-shirt section. And now I'm going to go over to the blog itself, and our session should be transferred over through this query string. Google Analytics should recognize this, include this into our Google Analytics tag, send the information off, and we should have a new page view here that is the same user still. So we just have one user, and he is now recognized as one session, one user, and he is on the right page. So now we have installed cross-domain tracking with the help of Google Tag Manager. So just to recap really quickly, you need to be thinking about when to install cross-domain tracking. Do I actually need cross-domain tracking? Go through the crucial questions that you need to ask yourself. Second, you would need to then just simply alter the Google Analytics tracking codes to include and link up these 2 domains. In Google Tag Manager, this is pretty easily done. You can also do this obviously in the GTag or in the Analytics.js tracking, but there are some other instructions that you would need to utilize. And I'm going to link up some resources down below where you can find this out. All right, this is it with this week's video on cross-domain tracking with Google Tag Manager. If you like this video, then definitely give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't yet, then consider subscribing to our channel right over there, because we'll bring you new videos just like this one every week. Now, my name is Julian. Till next time.